Hi all, you may have noticed that we're doing something a bit different this week. I'll give you a hint. Do you remember the time Goku and Piccolo learned how to drive? Not a part of saving the world, but still a great memory. That's what this is. These are our filler episodes. Rough takes, weak audio quality, but hidden gems. It's your favorite mixtape that sustained you until the album dropped. This is the Nerds on Hip Hop filler episode.
And welcome to what will be a special filler episode today. Today we have a special guest, MGG. We'll have him introduce himself soon. And as usual, you have me, the Wolves Den, and the legendary Miss Old School. Say hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
And MGG is visiting us from the Decent Podcast. You want to tell us a little bit about the podcast a little bit before we jump into it?
Yeah, it's basically just a bunch of black guys, I guess, getting together to just talk about anime, manga, current events, hip hop, anything really. But mostly we focus on like reviewing kind of like the big shonen manga, and then we end up talking about random stuff here and there. So that's like the high level. But honestly, if you listen to the episode, you'll see that it gets pretty crazy.
And
Yeah, it's me.
And because we know that you specialize in manga, Miss Old School and I thought it'd be nice for us to do a manga filler episode talking about Corrector Yui. What is Corrector Yui, Vicky? How would you describe that for the people who have not heard of it? I bet we can just talk about our experiences.
For a second, I thought you said correcting a Yui, like a U-turn, and I was like, what? But oh gosh, so definitely very 90s. Basically a magical girl series based around the computer world, I think is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think Mega Man Battle Network meets Card Captors.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I liked it though. I'm a big Magical Girls fan, as many people might know. Sailor Moon being my favorite. But this was definitely like a cool take on it, just because I like the technology aspect of it. It kind of reminded me of Code Lyoko at some points, just with them going into the computer and like dealing with that stuff. I think it was really creative. I don't know. What did you guys think?
The Code Lyoko thing, I just went into nostalgia mode. Sorry, it's been a while. I forgot all about that, but yeah.
I wrote about it
like
a year ago, so it's pretty fresh in my mind because I had to watch it. And yeah, so
yeah, it's an interesting show for sure. On Corrector, I guess, like coming from the manga world and like specifically the hardcore shonen, this is, I definitely agree with Victoria, is like it has that 90s feel. Like when I started reading it, I was like, oh yeah, this is bringing me back to like when I used to watch Toonami and like watch those shows that come on like right after school or whatever. So I definitely got those vibes from it. The only thing that was weird to me though was that the whole being in love with her tutor thing, who's obviously way older than she is.
That seems to be a trope in Magical Girl series.
Oh, it is a trope in there?
A little bit. This felt a little bit weirder though to me for some reason. Maybe because like she's so clearly young and he's so clearly older.
Right.
I think this is actually the least creepy of all of them.
Really? The fact that it's one-sided so far that we've seen, I think that makes it a little less creepy.
I mean, she's 8th grade, even though she's drawn like she's 5th grade. 8th grade,
yeah, and
he's 10th grade. That's not terrible.
I thought he was in college.
He works out of college, but he's that's he's unless I'm tripping, because he said he was. It sounded like the girl that he was tutoring was his classmate. Am I wrong on that?
I thought he was in college. I agree. I thought that's what I read. Yeah. But I mean, if he's a 10th grader working in college, then I mean he's up there.
Right.
In intelligence, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I thought he was in college and just tutoring the 10th grader because he's a college person.
I guess that does make more sense conceptually than what I'm describing. Yeah, so never mind. I guess it's still creepy.
Yeah, but I think that's partially what it is too, that makes it even more creepy, because like you said, she kind of acts like a 5th grader. Like she acts really young sometimes. Like, like you said, like it reminds me of Card Captors, and she's like, what, 12?
I mean, yeah, I think in Card Captors Sakura's like 10. So yeah, I think there's a big difference there.
That's true, yeah.
But so, what did you guys think of like the artwork? Because you guys said it was very 90s, but that doesn't tell me whether or not y'all think they did a good job with the art or not.
I think they did a good job for, if it was supposed to target the 90s, like they did the best job they could do. That's what I say. I say it looked like that to me. I don't really have any major issues with the artwork, and like once again, this is like, I don't know. I've seen chapters of One Punch Man, so to me, like if it's not that bad, I don't consider it bad. You know what I mean? Like the original One Punch Man, the one drew, it's horrible drawing. And like some of the old Hunter x Hunter chapters, horrible drawing. So like it's very hard for me to call something bad.
I thought like this felt very current as far as like art style, but I think the costumes is what made me feel like it was very 90s, but the art style felt pretty good as far as like blending in with a lot of today's stuff. Like without the costumes and maybe like the computer stuff, I wouldn't know when it came out.
That's real interesting, because my thing is that any character design stuff still looks great today. Like I think Yui herself looks great, and whenever they close up on her when she does the pose with the staffs or anything, it's like that's super detailed. The costume is nice, all of that. But any kind of background villain, I think like what his name is, Wa-chan, the kind of werewolf.
Oh, the dog guy, yeah.
That looks like straight out of 90s Digimon. Like that looks heavy dated. I mean, I think the backgrounds don't look that great. I think in the first or second chapter, there's this moment where I think she's talking about like the sky is like full of mist, and I'm just like, there's nothing visually here to kind of show that. I just take your word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do think it had some good scenes. Like the action scenes, I thought were pretty good. And her attack scenes or panels, those are really cool. Like it felt very impactful, and I really like the when they go into the she kind of gets lost in, what is it, Comnet, I think. Comnet, and she's like in the kind of like a mazy world where it has like the checkered floors. That was a pretty cool design. It kind of reminded me of screensavers, like the old screensavers, where like the cubes would bounce around. I thought that was a cool concept too.
Yeah.
No, I definitely liked the transformations. I thought were probably like the coolest part, and like you said, that Mega Man feel. I think that's what I like. Like usually, I like that in like any type of, I don't know, cartoon or anime or manga I read. It's like when there's a variety of costumes and forms. That was part of like what drew me to Power Rangers and all that stuff. But yeah, I think those were drawn really well. I felt like I didn't like the villains as much. Like in terms of how they were drawn, I felt like those were very like I feel like in today's standards, they would be like regular people. Like if you saw them drawn as a character, you wouldn't think they were like the main villain. You'd be like, oh, that's a fodder guy that's about to get smacked like in the next page. But that was the main villain.
They definitely looked very henchman-y, like just throwaway characters, one time, monster of the week kind of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I did like I think, was it Fortuna? The her costume design was really cool. Just like the veil and the long dress. I thought that was she looked cool.
Yeah, and I think there's another villain around Fortuna. Do you guys remember her name? I do not have it written down as I was hoping. But yeah, that entire chapter, I would say from like an art perspective, chapter 3, right after the one where you talked about where she gets lost in the web, like this series had a manga, had an anime adaptation. I don't know anything about it. But I feel like if you're gonna do the series now, when you talk about that, I was like, all I can do is think of like the Vaporwave album covers, and how like that would be the visual background that you do for something like this.
Yeah, I actually I didn't know it was adapted into. I looked it up just to see how many chapters there were in like overall, since we could only find 7 online that were translated. I think it was something like 20 or 40. No, I think it was like 20. It was something that felt doable, and and then I saw that it was an animated series, so I went and looked that up and watched the introduction video, like the opening, and it looked good. Like, it even looked more current than the manga, which was surprising to me. Yeah, like it looked like something that, I mean, still 90s, but it had a better quality to it, I want to say, that I think I could actually sit down and watch and not feel like I'm watching something like super old. Not that I mind that, obviously, because my name's from old school.
I'm thinking, because I was reading some stuff on like Wikipedia, I guess, about it, and it looked like maybe the anime came first, but I'm not sure. The like first sentence kind of like hints at it. Like, the anime series was produced by Nippon Animation and Broadcast on NHK from 1999 to 2000. It was licensed, blah blah blah. That came on Cartoon Network too. And then there's 2 volume series created, but it sounds like they're saying the manga was created after, but I could be wrong. There's a few shows out there like that where they'll make the anime first and then they make like a light volume or a manga afterwards.
So I'm looking at it now, and it seems like they were kind of created around the same time, but the anime did come first, but like in the same month, and they were kind of running concurrently. But yeah, no, it's 5 mangas, which is 5 manga volumes. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have some seasons, so like 11 total. So way less than 20, like I said before. Super doable. I like too how like they really went in on this computer concept. I don't know if I'm talking about that too much, but just like, I mean, I think the villain costumes were a little, I didn't really like them, but like their names, like Freeze and Virus and Jagging, it seemed like a really clear connection to like really bringing like the metaphors there, or not even metaphors, but very clear.
Yeah, I wonder if this came out like how closely this was to like Digimon or Digimon Season 2, because I felt like that was when they were like heavy with the internet stuff, you know what I mean, like early 2000s, Y2K, all that stuff. So
this was late 90s, early 2000s.
So it just might be the zeitgeist of the time entirely. Did you guys recognize that like chapter 3 is exactly the same radio story from Sailor Moon, just done based on the fortune telling? Like, it's literally exactly the same thing.
That was the first thing I thought of, but I wasn't gonna bring it up because I always bring up Sailor Moon. I'm happy you said it.
I'll be the one to do it for you.
Oh, it's totally fine. I mean, I didn't watch Sailor Moon that heavy, so I didn't pick up on that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, so like I think it's like the 3rd or 4th episode of Sailor Moon where there's a radio. One of the villains or henchmen guys, Jedi, he starts a radio channel where he basically like brainwashes anybody who listens, and they kind of like get lost into it, like because they want to fall in love and blah blah blah. So it was really similar. It was just like instead of a computer program, it was a radio program.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was pretty much. I was actually gonna look it up. I was like, which one came first? But this came second.
It has to be Sailor Moon. I finished all that episode.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too because as old as it kind of was, it seemed to kind of have a futuristic feel. Like she talked about like leaving her cell phone at home.
Yeah.
Like like late 90s, like cell phones weren't like that.
Right?
Yeah.
You really had a cell phone at that age?
I didn't.
No.
Most people I think did.
But I guess maybe in Japan more than us. I don't know. Maybe it's like a country thing.
And then I thought the computer mistakes were hilarious. Like, there's a moment in time where Virus is like, oh, I sent you an email. I mean, it's like, no, you posted it on a message board, which is like, who would make that mistake now.
All right.
And that kind of led me to ask you guys, like, what would you change about this to make it fit now? Like what would be the villains really be like in a more modern sense?
Definitely would have to have a social media tie in here somewhere.
Yeah,
like way more than I think showed up in this series.
Yeah, I can easily see something like trolling getting
probably a villain that like I don't know if you guys have watched like American Gods. Yeah. But there's like these I think social media is like one of the new age gods, but like I could see something like that being like one of the virus villains, like, oh, hey, I'm social media and I'm all the bad things about social media or whatever, and then go from there.
Yeah.
I could be like I could see the villain changing to more of like, here are the bad things about the internet versus like, oh, virus and like all that stuff. I feel like today are like, yeah, computers get viruses every now and then, but I think they're much less of a concern than they were back then.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that would definitely more social media. Trolling could be a thing. Yeah.
Oh, that would be funny. I can imagine that character.
Right? Yeah. I feel like it's just a natural tie-in. And I have like, I'm thinking like lagging. Like lags might be interesting. Or like even like video game industry. I thought it was cool how they kind of tied it to like other stuff. Like when when I think in one of the last chapters they infiltrated the medical net.
Yes.
And I was just like, whoa, that's kind of serious. Like before I was like, oh, la-di-da-di-da. But then I was like, wait, if people can't access their medical records and like they can't like get help from their doctor or whatever, like that could actually be pretty dire. So I could see them leaning into stuff like that.
Imagine like they did. Sorry, go ahead.
No, like imagine them like leaning into more stuff like that where it gets a little bit more serious.
I'm thinking of like what would be like breaking down like a Google city. Like something like that would be kind of interesting, as well as like if you have the medical net, you have that. It's like if you could like hack Google City, what would that even look like visually? And then the result of quote unquote destroying Google, what would that look like for society for a bit?
If anything, I probably see it as more of a like, instead of being like one town, like how they have these different like subnets here, Google would probably be like the gateway system to all these things. And then, like, you know, the dark web would be like, oh, hey, there's this corner of Google, like, you shouldn't go, you shouldn't go over there, because you're going to see some crap. So, I guess it would be like, I could see it more like that, since it kind of, like, it seems like Google is more of, like, the funnel to get to anything. I could see it as more of, like, oh, hey, look, it's the Google train, or, like, this is the Google hub to connect to all these other, like, subnets.
That just reminded me of like, what was that, like Osmosis Jones?
Okay. This is, you guys should call this the nostalgia episode. Kolyoko and now Osmosis Jones. Yeah, I have to.
I'm just thinking like the hub of like, and those like analogies and stuff. That's what they remind me. I haven't watched that in forever.
A long time. There was like a pill with a gun, right? A orange and red pill.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
What did you guys think of Yui as a character?
I think I liked her overall. It was weird though, because I felt like she was a little bit more mature in the beginning, and then as it went on, I was like, wait, no, she's not really like when she wasn't doing her homework for the summer. I was like, okay. And then when something else happened, and I was like, okay, so she's not very mature, because she adapted to like the magical girl thing pretty quickly. Like she was all for it.
No hesitancy.
Yeah, no hesitancy at all. She was just like, oh, I'm gonna just yell some words and see if it works. Like, so that was pretty cool. Just her brashness, and then later on, just realizing how a little bit more immature she is. But I mean, she's young, but I think overall I liked her. For the most part. What about you, MGG?
Yeah, I agree. I think she came off pretty mature to me, honestly, like in the beginning. I like that she was ready to jump into her powers. They weren't like, oh no, I want to be like a regular girl. And then, you know, it was kind of like, yeah, no, this is fun. I'll do this. So, which I feel like someone of her age, like if that happened to me, like hell yeah, I'm jumping in. You know, like I'm not gonna think about what my 8th grade troubles or whatever grade she was in. So yeah, I liked her character, but at the same time, like I can't go like, you know, it was like a very how do I say this? Like there's no deep points to her character, but it fits because of like the style of the manga. Like I didn't expect any major like character developments or her to like transform into a villain. So I think for like the show, it fit. I thought it was okay. Like she didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I thought she was interesting. I didn't think of whether or not I thought she was mature or not. I did like the idea that she was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to be a hero of justice. Like, I was like, man, that's mad kind of quick. Okay. Where's the sense of justice coming from? But at the same time, I thought what was interesting is that I think it was the 3rd or 4th chapter where they meet the guy who's essentially a tree in the digital world.
Yeah.
And
I like that story a lot, actually.
That was pretty neat, and I actually liked her reaction. It took me a while to really understand where it was coming from, but the idea where she gets like so upset at IR and says like, wait, the guys who you're asking me to recruit will attack me and possibly kill me? You didn't. This was not part of the conversation.
Which is fair.
That's like it took me a while to process, but I was like, wait, you're right. It's like you'd only expect the people who are on the grosser to attack you, not the people who you being asked to recruit to. So I was like, okay, I was like, that's a fair taking up a stance for yourself. It's like, hold on, that's not what I signed up for. Let's have a real conversation about this. Or
especially since he just finished almost choking her to death.
Yep. I feel like other series might have just like skipped that. I was like, I like that they went into that. I was like, no. She was like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool how they kind of like put in these little random good messages too. Like that whole story is kind of like, don't litter. And then like later on it's like, do your homework.
Right. And I mean, yeah, I thought the tree was kind of right in what he did. Like, I was like, all right, yeah, I see your side of the story with the whole, like, I mean, they're messing stuff up. I mean, you did a little bit indiscriminately, but I get the good intention there.
Yeah.
Although it took me a while to really process, like, a digital littering concept. Like, what does that really like to be? Because it's like, it's a virtual space. So what does throwing out really mean in that kind of essence? So I was like, I got your real life equivalent of this, but are you sure these guys who are digitally littering are littering in real life?
I'm thinking like bloatware or like stuff like that. I don't know. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, it kind of took me out of the story a bit because I was so used to like it being so like technology based, and I was like, wait, there's a tree? Like an actual tree? Even the beach was kind of interesting too. I don't know what that would be, though.
Yeah, I think the tree probably could transform into, instead of litter, it probably could be something a little bit different for like the modern day. But I mean, they could like say litter was like, you know, hateful comments or all this stuff. But I don't know if they would describe it as litter though. But I can see like that concept of like, oh, I'm cleaning up the bad on the internet being transformed into like something else.
Yeah, that's a good, that would work really well, I think, too.
Yeah. Is there ever going to be a magical girl who actually studies as a main character, by the way?
They don't have time.
They gotta save the world, man.
I'm realizing, well, I guess no, My Hero Academia, they do study, but they don't have like
it's hero studying. So.
Right,
yeah,
it's a difference.
I was thinking, I'm like, shonen characters are never in school.
Except for Gohan.
Yeah, no, and that's...
true.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
That's why he was so bad. He was studying.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go
we were talking about this on the podcast like a while ago, but I always felt like Gohan was like if we look at Dragon Ball Z in the light of Goku and the crew are basically just a bunch of hoodlums. Gohan's the one guy that's like trying to change that, but everybody around him is like, "No, dude, just be a hoodlum." And he's like, "Nah, like I kind of want to like be successful." And he's like, "No, dude, you just have to fight things, and like everything else will figure itself out." I was like, "No, you guys die all the time. Like you guys are literally dying like all the time. Like we have to go wish you back. Like literally our whole life is spent reviving you, and then you dying again. So it's like."
That's like the logical
yeah.
one of the bunch.
Right. But then they want to make you like feel bad for him because then they'll bring him in the story and then basically have him get dropped, like beat up, and then you're just like, damn, Gohan sucks so much. But it's like if you just flip the lens, it's kind of like Gohan's trying to be a better person, but they keep pulling him into this fighting. Man.
This is why I don't ever get mad at the characterization at the beginning of GT, where people just like, why didn't Gohan do this? It's like, Chi-Chi worked hard to get him to be studious. That's the payoff. That's her dream.
Exactly. Like him and Trunks is like a CEO in GT. Like I like that story. I was like, oh, Trunks is out here getting his money. Like,
yeah, we won't go all the way there, but I just like, if you're gonna touch on that, that's something I've been dying to get off of my chest.
I'm with you on that one. Like, as soon as you touch the Dragon Ball Z, you have so many comments, but...
It would be interesting to have, like, a Dragon Ball Z with Gohan as a central character now. Like, a short series, like 12 episodes, but just, like, this is everything from his perspective.
Yeah.
He's actually the good guy in this.
That would be hilarious. Like, my dad keeps leaving me.
Right. Just trying to survive.
My mom's sitting here trying to get me to study.
Yeah.
I have this, like, stepdad that comes and, like, forces me to fight stuff for no reason. Like,
that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think the other thing I wanted to ask was whether or not you guys wanted to see more. So, as we found out, like, there's at least 7 different volumes, and we only translated is the first volume and this first chapter of the second volume. Based on where it's going, would you read more?
I'll say this, like, while reading it, I was like, there's gotta be more. Like, I was just like, at first it felt like it was moving fast, then it slowed down, and I was like, there's 7 chapters here, like, either all of these are 100 pages, or, like, I'm missing something. So, I guess I would if I had the time, but at the same time, like, this type, like story type, it's hard for me to like binge, I guess, so to speak. Like the villain of the week thing starts to get old. So if it's fairly short, like maybe a couple seasons, I could probably get through it. But if we're talking like old 90s cartoons long, where like hundreds of episodes, I'd be like, it'd take me some time to like get through all of it.
Yeah, I'm in the same space. As I was reading it, same thing. Like I was interested. I felt like there could be more. If there was more available, I probably would read it. Like, because I felt like as I was reading it, I can keep going and going. I could probably binge it, but once I put it down, I kind of lost interest. To a degree. But I think like once I looked up, because I was curious enough to look up whether or not there was an anime series or how many volumes there were, because I was like, depending on how much there are, I might read all of it. So when I saw there were like around 10 total, I was like, oh, I could do that. Like, yeah, if I find it, I'd read it. But other than like more than that, like probably not.
Okay, I'm not sure where I stand, because there are a couple of things that kind of went through my mind. They're trying to find 8 people, right? It was like the 8 things of like Dr. Inukai.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
And it's like, we already have 4 of them.
Right.
Like, and 2 of them just randomly popped out of nowhere mad quick. So I'm like, okay, you were rushing through that piece. We already fought 2 of the major villains. We fought Jaggy and... who else? Was it Jaggy and Virus?
We fought Freeze, too. Freeze was the first one.
Yeah.
They fought all
wow!
Yeah.
So it's like
happened about the main guy,
Grosser. So
yeah, the Grosser, the main villain guy. Yeah.
So part of me is like, this feels like all just set up. Like there has to be some greater, because it's like if you're running through the sub villains this fast, and you're already finding all these people you need to find quickly, that means there has to be a bigger pretense with Grosser and Inukai. Like there has to be something bigger overarching the series. And if you're telling me by the end of this third volume that it's like that's the core idea, now let's go face this bigger thing for the next 7 volumes, I'd be like, all right, we can go somewhere. But that's what I would need to see. I would need to know, like, okay, if you're running through this part fast, what's the bigger end goal? And I think the other thing for me that gets me is that she has no friends. Like, she has one friend, but we barely spend any time with her outside of the net, where it's kind of like, that's, I think, the reason why I like either chapter 6 or the medical chapter. One of those 2 chapters where they're like, she's actually outside, engaging with people, building relationships, where it's like, okay, now we can be more invested such that when she goes back into the digital stuff, or even when does she get to tell someone that she knows what's going on in the digital stuff? Because that's the big other trope, right? It's like somebody knows. Either it's like Sailor Moon, where you find other people who are going to go in the digital world with you, which part of me wonders if what's his name, Shun Nissan, the love interest, has to be one of the characters. I feel like that would be kind of a place to take the reveal. Like if he's Grosser, that would be something.
I would see him as more of like I forget what the guy's name was, but I know in Sailor Moon there was like that guy who did magic who kind of like was a 6 Power Ranger or whatever. Yeah, I could see him doing that.
6 Mad Power Ranger, that's great.
Yeah.
Coming off the bench.
I was actually looking more towards like the dad, because he's like always at work. And like it'd be interesting if he ended up becoming a villain of some sort, even though that might be way too dark for the series.
Yeah, I think that might be pushing it, but you're right. He's in charge of like what was it, the theme park?
Yeah. So it'd be interesting, or at least someone in his company, or I don't know, something like that. Like that twist would be interesting. And the guy in the hospital, I think, is what made me more interested about wanting to read more. When he's like in bed and she's like, he looks familiar. And,
right, he looks like the main villain, not Grosser, but the other guy.
I don't remember the other guy.
There's one like sub henchman who's above freezing all of them. He's an old guy, and I was like, they bandaged it. The guy who's lying down in the hospital has bandaged eyes, and the guy that we look at in the digital world has glasses over his eyes with the same hair. So I'm like, has to be him.
Oh wow, is it that deep though? I'm wondering.
It might be. I mean, it seems like they're kind of alluding to something or like foreshadowing, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like
those are the things that get me in trouble though, because I like always like I'm like, oh, maybe it is this deep, and I overthink it, and then it's not that deep at all, and it's like, no, you just happen to have glasses on, and then I get disappointed because I'm like, man, I really thought, you know.
That happens to me too. I'll be reading something or like watching something. I'm like, oh, that guy in the background looked weird. He's probably the villain. It's like, no, he was just a weird looking.
It's all these other shows that make you like pay attention. You know what I mean? Because you might miss something. It puts you in that mindset of like, oh, every little thing matters. So you're like, oh, he walked with his left foot. That means.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I might be overthinking it, but I think there are plot threads to follow, and especially since we could not find any more translated, I'm like, there has to be places to go. And I think you're right. Like the father is a place to go. Like he's not at home. He's not that like it's ripe for the possibilities.
Right. And he's working at a company that deals with this kind of things.
I think the funny thing that I've always wondered is like, what parent would let you stay there sleeping each time? Like I can't think of any of my parents who would just be like, oh, if they're sleeping, I guess I'm gonna leave them.
I mean, she did bring up one time when she's like, should I call the hospital? I was just like, you probably should, because it's been like, what, hours? And this is happening like every day.
That might be a cultural thing though, because I know for sure in my family I wouldn't be able to sleep that long, but then
on the other side of the fence, maybe not.
That's true.
Maybe they just let you sleep.
Right. I guess in the first chapter, she was like, "Oh, maybe she's working hard on the computer."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My parents are like, "What? How many hours are you on the computer?" No. Sorry, you gotta go do something else.
And I think that's also the funny thing is like everything about this is like trying to play up this idea. It's like nobody knows how to use the internet. And that's just such a weird space to be in because now the only people who I know who don't know how to use the internet or anything are older people, which also made me wonder, like, what would this series be like if this was for like people who are over 50 who don't use it? Like, what would a magical girl series for 50-year-old woman be like? Around similar-ish type of vibe.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Probably more explanations, like that message board versus email thing. Probably more stuff like that.
Right, I think there's something weird there to kind of go through because, like, everybody who's young knows how to use it. So it's like, yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing about, like, between the year 2000 and now, the age flip of, like, who uses this stuff really is different.
But even then, like, in the 90s, like I guess, like, kids were starting to get on it, but at the same time, like, there was a stage where it was, like, well, but they were, like, super experts, though. But older people were definitely more on the internet than younger. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's true, too. There was a learning curve for some of us, I think.
Yeah, it did bring me back to the time I was in like 4th, 5th grade when I first got my Mac. I didn't get my Mac computer. My school got Mac computers, and we were learning it. So it's like it brings me back to that. So it's like I remember learning, but it's like I spend so much time helping older people where I work right now, try to figure out what's going on with their computers. So it's like all I can do is see the inverse now.
Yeah, that's gotcha. Like me and my mom all day. She'll call me. She's like, "You have to teach me how to use Twitter." I'm like, "I don't know how to teach you how to use Twitter. Just use it. Just kind of do it." Yeah.
Yeah.
That is funny. Technology is more like muscle memory now than anything. Like sometimes, like when people ask same thing, like ask for help, I kind of am like. I kind of just figure it out. Like, that's really it. Like, I get the app or I like, go to the thing and, like, you either, like, know certain buttons are universal to do certain things across whatever platform. Like zooming, for example. Like, when you get a new phone, you just know, like, how to zoom. Like, you don't think about it. You know, you're either going to pinch or expand, right? Like, that's just universal now. So, it's just stuff like that I think is, like, it's interesting. We're just, it's so ingrained in us now. And, like, I spend time, like, sometimes when I'm using my GPS, like, damn, how would I even know how to go here if I didn't have this? Like, people knew how to do that before. And I'm, like, totally, like, well, I'll just GPS it. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, it's crazy.
It is. Yeah, even now it's crazy because, like, once my phone dies, it's like, man, like, how do there's, like, so many things I don't even know how to do without my phone. I'm like... How do I get to a new place, like, if I'm not around my laptop? You just gotta ask people. Like, that's what it was when I went to Korea last year, and my phone wasn't working because I didn't have service in Korea, and it was just like, I literally had to, like, stop people on the road, like, hey, where can I find this?
Oh, man. Did you speak the language?
No. It was a lot of pointing and pulling up pictures sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
no, I went to Japan last year with a couple of friends, and it was kind of like the same thing for the first couple of days, because, like, we didn't get, like, we got one of those remote GPS Wi-Fi things, so that helped. Yeah, so that helped a bit, but yeah, a couple of times, like, if we separated, I was, like, very, like, cognizant of, like, how I got to a place, because I was like, I'm not going to know how to get back. Like, we would, like, use GPS to kind of route it when we had internet, but then other than that, it was like, oh, you have to remember, like, how you're going to get back to your place, or else you're going to be totally lost.
A whole new level of awareness.
Oh, yeah.
I got 2 last questions to ask you guys. The last one of them came to my mind just now because I almost forgot. Did you guys like the kind of mascot IR? So, like, another magical girl trope, there's always kind of this weird magical being that stands in. There's Luna. The better version of Luna and Sailor Moon is Artemis. You got.
Luna's the. I don't know what you're talking about.
There is, I think his name is Kubo from Card Captors. No, Kubo is from Madoka Magica.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the guy from Card Captors who's like a mini lion. Like, so it's always some creature, and in this case, it's this. I don't even know. Like,
the ball.
Right? Did you guys have any kind of attachment? Think it was cute or anything like that? Because that's like, I don't know. It doesn't do. IR didn't do anything for me either way, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the wrong person to think about that.
I agree. I think I
might also be the wrong person. But if I'm thinking of it from a business standpoint, IR is probably selling a lot of toys. Like IR plushies are probably flying off the shelves. Like stuff like that. I could see that. For me, once again, like coming from the shonen side of things, like I would definitely want to see IR like actually do something. Like I kind of hate when there's a tag along buddy that never does anything. Like same thing with like Happy and Fairy Tail. Like I always wanted Happy to like do something. I don't know if you guys like watched or read Fairy Tail, but like I was like, oh yeah, I want Happy to like actually do something. Or like Plu and Rave Master, like they're all around, but I definitely am like, hey, like they always have like this ominous thing around them where you feel like they like might be able to turn up,
but then they never do.
Yeah, I did actually read Rave Master. Yeah, Plu never did anything. But I think the cool thing with sometimes, I mean, I think they're supposed to be kind of like guiding, well, not Plu, but like IU, is that it? IR, Luna, like they're supposed to like guide the hero through like their powers and stuff. So I think he did a good job at that. Even like thinking ahead where he's like, oh, I'm going to download this so you can like transform into this at any time. Or he gave her the watch, like, here, you can do this and now like whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I thought he was good with like advice. But that's pretty much it. So, I mean, I wouldn't, he was decent. I don't really like the design too much. But I thought he was a decent character. For his purpose, at least. Or her purpose.
Right, we don't know.
I just feel like...
I guess, is there any last thing you want to highlight about the volumes that we found online? And I guess, quick side note, to any viewer who's able to find anything beyond Chapter 7, share it with us, since all of us kind of sound semi-interested. But... yeah. Is there anything else you guys wanted to highlight about this or really bring up?
Oh, I mean, I wanted to go back to that like point you brought up about like continuing the series. I think the miss here was that we didn't read enough, like if it even had one, but like I don't think we read enough to like the turning point in this manga. Like in all these other ones, like I guess you guys might read like Boku no Hero or whatever, but like it's probably boring until like that part where they have like the first exam. Then you're like, all right, I'm hooked. Like I have to see like the rest of this. So I don't feel like we got to like the I'm hooked part yet. Like it was all like, okay, we're filling out the story. This is stuff we've seen before, and then we were waiting for, which I'm thinking is what you were hinting at with like Grocer, is like once we find out more about like Grocer's intentions, that's probably like the turning point where we're like, oh yeah, like I definitely can finish this off now. Now I'm intrigued, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I think I agree with that because. Like, same thing. Like, it was moving kind of quick, but I don't think we did get to the turning point yet. Like, we still haven't really properly been introduced to the main villain. There's still, like, a lot of mysteries that seem to be just starting. But, like, the series is pretty short, so I feel like it probably would have that point sooner than later. So I'd be interested in reading more just to, like, see where it goes, or if it goes there.
All right, I guess the final question. Will you watch at least 3 episodes of the anime now that we know that it exists? And it's only 52 episodes total. That's the other thing I found out. But yes, will you watch an episode of the anime? It wasn't manga good enough for you to at least do that?
I'd probably read the manga. I probably wouldn't watch the anime.
Okay.
If it's easily accessible and it's like dub, I watch it. Not that I'm like a dub fanboy or anything like that. It's just easier to watch dubs nowadays than subs because I tend to do a bunch of other stuff in the background. So it's better to like just hear what they're saying than be like, oh, I gotta try and read this and then like edit a video at the same time. Like, so
I actually think I normally don't say this, but a bad dub for this would be kind of fun to watch. That's how I'm actually feeling.
I could agree with that. I can see that.
I think I agree with that too, because it's already kind of like, I don't want to say campy, but campy-ish.
Yes, it's campy adjacent.
With a bad dub.
Right.
Yeah. So cool, yeah. So I would read the manga.
Yeah, I could see myself watching 3 episodes, like if it popped up on Netflix. But the manga is probably easier. Like if I was fiending it, like I was like, oh man, I really got to read more of this, I would definitely go to the manga first, then trying to search the anime. But yeah, if I'm like scrolling through and I'm like, whoop, anime popped up, I could see myself watching a couple episodes.
Yeah, I'm guessing it might be on YouTube. I guess I'm more interested the more and more I think about wanting to know if there's actually a proper hook. So maybe I'll be the guinea pig and let you guys know if it's worth investing in.
I'll take that.
That's the thing that's driving me right now, because if they didn't do that whole thing with the hospital scene, I'd be like, I can let it go. But now I'm a little curious, like, what's that all about? Now I have a mystery to solve. But I just kind of want to, I'm like, how can I figure out without investing the least amount of time? So I'm like, oh, the manga will be a quick read. Since it's only like a
find
few.
the rest.
Yeah, that too.
But
I think this was fun. We should definitely do this again. And you know where to find me and Miss Old School. We're here on the Nerds and Hip Hop podcast. But where can they find you, MGG?
Oh, all over the place. You can find me on Instagram at The Decent Crew. Facebook, search The Decent Crew. YouTube channel, search The Decent Crew. All one word for all of these. And I mean, I have a Twitter, TDP_podcast, but I'm not very good at Twitter. I'm mostly on the Instagram page, but I pop up on Twitter every now and then. So definitely, if you reach out to me on any of these, me or somebody will respond. We love to engage. So yeah, anywhere there, come find me.
Yeah, and they steer you in the right place. Like he just reminded me earlier today. He's the one who got me to watch A Disastrous Life of Psyche K. So
yeah, which is hilarious.
Hearing.
Yes, Shudo Kaido is the greatest anime character of all time. I'll go that far.
If you finish that and you're fiending for more styles of that, there's another one called Do You Know Sakamoto? Something like that. Similar concept. Like,
we've been watching that.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have. That's amazing.
It's like almost the exact same style, just a bunch of people. Like, it's almost in the inverse, I guess, because society like doesn't care about anything, and like everyone else is like trying to be his friend, and then Sakamoto, everyone's like hyping him up, or like he's just really cool. I forget, but I just remember watching like the first couple of episodes and like just dying.
So yes, and I think one of these days we'll be both on the Decent Crew podcast.
Oh yes, yes. We love to have you on. We will definitely get that scheduled.
Yes, and so I hope you all enjoy this filler episode for a Magical Girl series you might not have heard of, but we wanted to explore anyways. And if you guys want another filler down the line of any other manga, keep it short-ish. We will say that in advance because our time is limited, especially now that I'm starting One Piece. But keep it short.
Are you watching the anime?
I'm watching the anime, going step by step. I've come to the conclusion that
it's gonna be so fun.
It will be 3 years for me to catch up, but we'll get into that later. But long story short, if you guys want us to do
less than what it took me, so
long story.
The same thing. But... Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No problem. So long story short, if you're listening to today's episode and there's a manga you want us to do a filler episode on, hit me up at the Wolves Den 25, or where can they hit you up, Vicky?
At Miss Old School with a K.
Yeah, or you can just hit up the Nerds and Hip Hop actual page, because we have that too on Twitter. And the very, very last thing, I'm going through a lot. San Diego Comic-Con, end of this week, we will be there doing anime and hip hop intersection. Come join us. And if you go on Twitter, we're doing a giveaway.
Yep. Gonna Funimation gave us some really, really cool stuff. So if you retweet the flyer, telling us your favorite anime, your favorite hip hop song, using the hashtag #NerdsOnHipHop, and comment on our latest episode.
Or this filler episode, we'll settle for that too.
Right, yeah. Last episode or this episode. And yeah, that's it. And you'll be entered and you'll get some cool stuff, most likely.
And special thanks to our other sponsor, Adorned by Chi. Can't forget that.
And
congratulations on the
Thanks.
Thanks. So that was today's episode. Thank you guys so much.